to this inaugural Sideline Pass panel on racial justice and equality. We hope you enjoyed this series. We are kicking it off with a bang with some awesome female leaders from across New Orleans. And we're so excited to have our moderator. She has been a dear friend of Sideline Passes since the very beginning. She's a leading civil rights attorney and the first African-American woman to be named executive director of the ACLU of Louisiana. She's the mother of a beautiful 5-year-old daughter. Can't believe Alanah's 5 already. Alanah Odoms previously served as the director of the Division of Children and Families and Deputy General Counsel of the Louisiana Supreme Court. In July of 2018, Alanah graduated from the prestigious Presidential Leadership Scholars Program. She's now one of 59 national up-and-coming leaders recognized for her commitment to solving our nation's most pressing problems. Odoms is a graduate of Rutgers School of Law, Newark, and a magna cum laude Phi Beta Kappa graduate of Rutgers College in New Jersey. New Orleans is lucky to have her, and we are lucky to have her moderating our awesome panel today. Alanah, thank you for being here. Good morning. We'll turn the floor over to you.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Jen. It is my honor and pleasure to be here with you this morning and with this host of incredible women who will be talking about racial justice and equality. I want to first begin by introducing each of our incredible panelists. First, we have Swin Cash. Swin is the Vice President of Basketball Operations for the New Orleans Pelicans. She played professionally for 15 seasons in the WNBA, leading the Detroit Shock to their first ever WNBA title in 2003. Swin is also an Olympian who guided Team USA to gold in 2004. You go, girl. And a collegiate national title winner with the University of Connecticut in 2000 and 2002. Swin will be inducted into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame in 2020. Oh, girl. Yeah. Now that is something. Claps and snaps for that. She is a proud New Orleanian resident, along with her husband, Steve, and her son, Saint. Next, we have Dr.Kiki Barnes. She is a dedicated mother, wife, and leader in the world of college athletics. Dr. Barnes is now Dillard University's athletic director, after serving as head coach of the women's basketball team. Dr. Barnes' initial responsibility was to facilitate the return of Dillard's athletic program after Hurricane Katrina. A native New Orleanian, Dr. Barnes is the founder of So You Want a Career in Athletics program, designed to expose girls to career opportunities in sports. Welcome, Dr. Barnes. Next, we have Miss Emily Colston. Emily is a trailblazer. She is a wife, a mom of 2, and a successful businesswoman and entrepreneur. She is the brand development manager for Main Squeeze Juice Company. Emily also works as a realtor, and she is the wife of Houdat legend Marcus Colston. Emily is an NPC bikini competitor and fitness guru. Get it, girl? Now that is something. She is strong. She is strong. She's been a consummate supporter of Sideline Pass since its inception and is one of the inspirations for Sideline Pass's high school scholarship program. Welcome, Emily. And last but certainly not least, Lacy Davillier. Lacy is a New Orleans native and graduate of Ursuline Academy and New York University. Okay, NYU. During her sophomore year at NYU, she fell in love with photography and has never looked back. Currently, she owns and operates Davillier Photography and Graphics and About Town Social, where she focuses on helping entrepreneurs brand themselves effectively and follow their dreams. Welcome to this incredibly esteemed group of women and panelists. I'm honored to have each of you with us today. So to begin this conversation, I'd like to start it off by asking each of you a very important and fundamental question. We have seen in the last several months, unlike anything we've ever experienced before, a global pandemic where we have seen the incredible loss of over 100,000 lives, most of which have been Black and brown people, unfortunately, disparately impacted by the coronavirus. We've also seen a national reckoning with regard to the fight for racial justice and to end police brutality and the killing of Black and brown people. What has been the personal impact on you and on your families of this incredible time in our history, including the Black Lives Matter movement? I'd like to ask that first to Dr. Kiki Barnes.
Okay. Wow, thank you so much for doing this, Jen, and thank you for that question and beautiful introduction. I think when I think about where we are right now and what we have, I guess, endured, the thing that has come out of this for me so far personally is the ability and the opportunity to actually speak for my real truth. I had a white colleague of mine reach out to me about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and a white colleague, athletic director, said, "Hey, I got a lot of white colleagues calling me, and I really don't know what to do. We don't know how to operate in our space and how we're supposed to assist. So would you be willing to have a conversation and participate on a panel?" So I'm like, cool. So we have the panel, and there was a question that was like, well, these things have been going on. Why haven't you said anything? I said, because we thought we were going to get fired. Like, I couldn't say like how I really felt without literally jeopardizing my life and my family. And so what I've personally finally had for the first time in my career was the opportunity to actually say what it was and work from a place of truth. You want to know how I really feel? You know, to be the only person in the room. Do you really want to know what that feels like? I had an opportunity to say that and be heard. And I'll tell you, that's the place I feel like if we can stay in this place, I feel like we can grow now because we're taking off the mask. You know, we're not smiling and having my hair straightened. I mean, we could get into all of those places, but literally I can just show up and say, hey, this is what it is, and this is how this makes me feel. And I'd like for us to look at different ways, to figure out how we're going to move forward. And so I can have space, you know, so I can be successful. And so other people who look like me can be successful being authentically who they are and not the pretend thing, you know, wear the right kind of makeup, wear the right kind of the right kind of hairstyle, and all of those things that are very, very superficial. So that's what it's been for me so far.
That resonates so deeply with me. Emily, would you like to share on that same point?
Sure. So for me, the biggest impact has been to explain to my 8-year-old child why the Black Lives Matter movement is what it is and why we are fighting for equality and justice, and why I have to teach him how to navigate through life a different way because of the color of his skin. And like teaching him that, listen, you are going to be put in situations where you need to know how to navigate and you need to know what to do, because more likely than not, because of the color of your skin, you're going to be seen as a threat. And it sucks because I am now taking a piece of innocence from an 8-year-old boy because he has to learn how to deal with the reality of the world. But as a mother, it's my job to protect them and give them the tools, and my daughter, of how to navigate. But it's sad. My heart hurts for a lot of the mothers out there who have lost children to police brutality. And, you know, as a mother, as a woman, I feel like it is our job to keep on fighting, to keep on pushing the fight, and also to keep on pushing this knowledge through our children, because they are the next generation. They're the generation that could bring on a whole bunch of change.
Yeah, that's so true, Emily. And, you know, as also a mother of a young daughter, I struggle with the same thing, you know, preserving their innocence, but protecting them from the outside world. It's not an easy balance. And of course, with everything on the news and television, it's almost impossible to shield them from it now. And so those courageous conversations that we know have been happening in Black homes for the longest time are hopefully now happening in more diverse households. Swin, I'd love to hear your voice on this point now also.
Yeah, I think Kiki and Emily really kind of put it into perspective on the professional level, how we as Black women, Black men have to deal with things, and then on the home front as well. So it's never a resting moment. I'm in the same boat as Emily, where I have a 2-year-old son, and as things were starting to happen, my mind was just reimagining what my conversations were going to have to be like with him. And so as my husband and I, and as a family, the reason why we stand now and the reason why we fight for the injustices is because we're hoping one day not to have that conversation, although I know that it's going to happen. I was on another show and I remember saying it really hit home to me whenever I saw this sign that was spray painted on the side of a building, and it talked about how when George Floyd called out for his mother, every woman should have been summoned to the kind of the front lines. And that's the conversation I have with some of my white counterparts and friends of mine. I had a friend that came to me and he said, you know what, we grew up together, we played basketball together, and he's a white man. He's like, I thought I knew everything because we all were in the same environment. And it wasn't until I heard you speaking about how you're gonna have conversations with your son that I realized I'll never have to have those conversations. Like, he couldn't understand it and he wanted to learn more. So I think this is a pivotal time for us to be vocal. And it sucks because you feel like, why do I have to teach? Why is it not just clear to you? But the reality is people don't grow up in the same homes and they're not given that information at a young age. So it is important, if we want our children and our communities to be safe, we have to be on the front lines, every single person. And I think that's why you see what's happening right now in Portland is you're seeing mothers that are saying no more. Like, I want my child, whether they're Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't matter, to have that same level of equality. So my husband and I, my family and I right now, we stand in support of, Black Lives Matter. We stand in support of all these other issues because we understand it's not only about our kids, it's about the community.
Yeah, so powerful, Swin. Lacy, your whole life has really been dedicated to empowering the next generation. What has this experience been like for you, both personally and professionally?
I can say that, so I have, from the majority of my life, existed in a lot of white spaces. I said in my intro, the schools that I went to and things of that nature. As a young person, believe it or not, even in those spaces, I really didn't experience a lot of racism from my counterparts. I really didn't. I didn't start experiencing that until I was much older. I learned a lot about it. Where I am now with it personally is that it has caused me to be much more concerned with speaking up. There was a time when I was a person who tried to keep it non-political. You know what I mean? I'm a business owner, don't want to offend people, things like that. So I was never a person to say, I was always a person to say, go vote, I'm going to go vote. I was never the person telling you who I was voting for, put it that way. Right. What BLM has done and everything that has happened recently is that, for lack of a better way to put it, I no longer care. I don't believe that killing people who look like me is a political issue. It's a life or death issue. It's a human rights issue. And so I personally feel empowered to speak out about it at every turn. Some people are going to be uncomfortable with that, and I'm okay with it. As far as I'm concerned, this is more important than other people's comfort. I feel like as Black people, and especially as Black women, we are socialized to make other people comfortable and to pretty much hide our otherness for the comfort of other people. And I have moved past that. I've had someone tell me that, oh, you're being very political. And I was basically like, please let me know which political party is the one where we don't kill people who look like me, and I'm gonna go on ahead and be happy to join them. So I've just rounded a corner in my own life on really just feeling like this is important enough for me to speak, because I do have 2 daughters and I don't want them to experience the things that we as people have experienced for our whole lives. Like, be proud of your otherness because there's nothing wrong with it.
Absolutely. Wow. I just saw heads nodding. I saw snaps. I saw, you really brought home, I think, some of the things that we experience as Black women. Dr. Barnes spoke about the mask coming off. Lacy, you spoke about this accommodationist kind of persona that we have all, I think women in general play a role in terms of uniting families, uniting communities, but Black women in particular, this role of accommodating not just white folks in white spaces, but also, you know, frankly, to call out, you know, we also live in a very patriarchal society. So we're navigating race and patriarchy at the same time. That's a double blow. It is not easy. And with many of the women on this call, if not all the women on this call, you've pioneered in spaces where you are either the only Black woman or the only woman. And so, you know, this double consciousness really is very heavy and very weighty on us. I want to just talk about some of the policy pieces that are kind of swirling around right now in the news. We hear a lot of conversation about defunding the police, divesting from police. I wonder if any of our panelists want to comment on what their understanding of divestment is, or defunding the police, and what the conversation in terms of investing in community and investing in those things and services that are going to actually help keep people safe, what that actually means to us in terms of protecting people and really talking about public safety and ensuring that our people aren't dying. Anybody want to take that up? Lacy?
I think I come from a unique perspective on this because I come from a family of police. My father's a cop. My older brother's a cop. So that's what I grew up with. I very much so grew up on the other end of that and constantly being worried about my daddy being out, you know, as a police. Yes. My understanding of defunding and divestment is that I believe that we should put funding into having the appropriate people doing the appropriate jobs. Police are not therapists. Police are not psychiatrists. They're not those people. And yet so often they're expected to be that. Even as far as if there is a homeless person who is walking around talking to themselves, making people uncomfortable, that person is arrested. My thought is that there should be something else happening with that person. I'm not saying that I know what that something else is, but being arrested is not the answer. But that being said, having the police called out for that is not the answer. As far as policy changes, I personally would like to see more body camera usage because that just makes things more transparent on all ends. And then in addition, a better complaint system. Because if we look at Mr. George Floyd particularly, someone will have to remind me of the exact number of complaints that that officer had on his badge beforehand that had not been taken seriously. But I know that it was greater than 10. I want to say it might have been 11, but I forget the exact number. But what if complaint number 3 had been taken seriously? What if something had happened then? I have to ask myself, will Mr. Floyd still be here with us? So when we talk about policy change, I think that we do need to understand that being a police officer is stressful. You walk out every day and you risk your life. You too want to go home to your family and you don't know if you're going to do that. So expecting people to do that while also doing things that should belong to another organization or another system is rough, and it puts everyone in a bad spot, and it's not fair. So in addition to that, like I said, just also a better complaint system. At some point, we have to start taking these complaints seriously because it could be anything. Perhaps that person is stressed out. Perhaps they're suffering from PTSD. Perhaps they're an avid racist. We don't know. The point is that maybe they need to be off the street. So those are the two things that I've kind of thought of.
And I'll just piggyback off of Lacy because I also come from kind of that police military background as far as family. So my perspective, I feel like it's very broad in regards to this. A couple of things, because I'm very opinionated on this, and I've had, probably like Lacy, I've had conversations with family, and I've also had conversations outside of family. And I too do not believe that police officers, one, are trained or equipped to be handling cases, whether it is someone that's homeless. I mean, there's been numerous videos that have been made, whether you go down to Florida and you see the gentleman who was dealing with a patient that was mentally ill, and he ends up being shot by the police officers. There's more where there's, you know, a white man that's waving an axe and he's takes 20 swings at the police officer, never gets tased, never gets shot. And so when we see things like this happening, it lets us know that there are certain biases and prejudice that exist within our police department. So how do we weed that out? One, I definitely think an independent review board has to be oversight for our police departments. You have to have independent review boards because they don't have a dog, I would say, in the race, right? They are just there to do the job. And there are some police officers, like Lacy said, that may be struggling with something. This is how we weed them out. And then you get proper training. How is it that people can become a police officer, carry a gun that is deadly weapon, and you literally maybe only have to go to the police academy for 6 months and then you just come into the pipeline? Like, let's start proper training. If I have to go to the university for X amount of years or to get a certain level of a job, then people who are policing our communities and have deadly weapons need to be trained a lot better than what we're doing right now. The system was never set up to be in favor of, and I'll say this, we can go to the 13th Amendment and watch all the videos and things that have been made, but it was never set up correctly in the first place. So let's fix that, right? We need the police officers, we need them in our communities, but we have to have better training, we have to have an independent review board. And the third thing will be this. When you talk about defunding, you talk about not just taking funds from the police officers. They're not gonna have, you know, these ads we keep seeing on TV. They're not going to have the funds for their families. You're going to call 911. Nobody's going to be there. That is not the truth. Do not let these videos and these political campaigns confuse you. We are saying keep the police, get them better trained, but at the same time, can we have other areas that specialize? So when you call 911 and there is somebody that has a mental illness, if there is somebody that's struggling with something else, domestic violence, we have to have people that are equipped to go into those situations and deal with them. Because police officers are not equipped to go into the situation and you know what they're thinking? I'm going into this situation, but I want to get home to my family too. Okay, the same way my dad goes off to war and he's thinking, and there's a 16-year-old kid that has a weapon pointing at him, he has to make a decision of does he get home to his family too. Like, these are different, we're putting them in situations sometimes that can't win. And lastly, I know I'm opinionated about this, ladies. Forgive me.
Good. No, you're an expert on it. I want to hear it.
Lastly, I will say this. Because there are different groups that we know try to infiltrate our police systems because they have certain radical agendas, we have to have evaluations. Once you become a cop, that does not mean that your evaluations stop. You should be getting evaluated. Every year on my job, I'm getting evaluated. And my boss is asking how your performance is, are there any complaints that come in? There has to be a system for evaluation internally, and then we need the independent review board to go over complaints and everything else. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. And, a little opinionated, but I hope it changes.
No, this is beautiful. And one thing I just want to highlight about the two voices that we just heard, Lacy and Swin, you oftentimes are thinking or hearing comments about defunding the police, and the larger general public is assuming that the people who are articulating this message are not members, don't have family members who are law enforcement themselves. Just in the same way when folks talk about crime, they presume that Black people aren't the victims of crime. We are both the victims of crime. We are family members of military and law enforcement. We are law enforcement ourselves. We were painted in such a monochromatic way that folks don't realize the dynamic identities that we hold. And so I think it's really important to hear Black women who have military family members, law enforcement family members, speak the way that you have. So I absolutely love that. Dr. Barnes or Emily, did you want to chime in here as well?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Emily.
Okay. So I agree 100% with what you two ladies said. There needs to be proper training. I also think that there needs to be more community policing or having incentives for people from these communities to go into these police academies. They know their neighborhoods. They know who to talk to. They're aware of the people who have mental illnesses within the community. I also think reinvesting in these communities. Listen, like, I come from a community where I go out, I see abandoned buildings, I see liquor stores on every corner, I see trash, I see people who are addicted to drugs, homelessness. That's where the community I came from and I experience every day, and it creates a hostile environment. So having a place where people can go and have a safe space and learn and get educated, children and mothers and fathers, just a place where they can have, where it can ease that hostile environment that they're used to seeing every day. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely, and then also as far as police accountability for actions, if a police officer knows, if I do this, I'm going to have my pension taken away, I am going to be brought up on charges, I think that they'll think twice about doing what they're doing to our communities. And all of the police, I have family as well in the police department. But that accountability is key. We still have Breonna Taylor, the cops that murdered her. They're still out and about while her mother is grieving. We're still fighting for Attorney General Daniel Cameron to do something about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
People who voted him into that position, who's supposed to be holding them accountable, is not doing it. So accountability is number one for me.
Dr. Barnes?
Accountability and training. That's where I am.
Yep.
That makes total sense. And I just want to share one of the initiatives that we're working on at the ACLU of Louisiana really centers on accountability. So I know lots of folks on the line have heard about a legal doctrine called qualified immunity, which essentially means that a law enforcement officer very well may have violated your constitutional rights, either your 4th Amendment rights or your 14th Amendment rights, with an unlawful search, an unlawful seizure, excessive force, or the like. But that officer will not be held accountable under our law, because the right that was violated has to be what's called clearly established under the law. And essentially what every court finds is that each particular set of facts has to be identical to the ones before in order for the right to be clearly established. And so therefore no one is ever held accountable. So at the ACLU of Louisiana, we're working on a new project called Justice Lab, where we're going to be working with over 37 law firms from across the country and 17 legal clinics to start bringing a series of lawsuits against police for this host of misconduct that we're talking about. Everything from stops, searches, seizures, driving while black, body slams, sicking dogs on people, running your cars into people, all the host of things that we know are happening in our community that have gone unchecked for so many years. And that really goes to that accountability piece. So what I really heard from the panelists is that we need accountability for the officers that we're working with today, and then a long-term strategy around divestment, which also means reinvesting back into the communities in terms of really providing for people's education, housing, mental health, getting police officers out of our schools. Lord knows we don't need police officers to be accompanying our children to classes and to schools and things like that. And so what a powerful conversation this is. I want to shift over to the core mission of Sideline Pass. So many of you have given your time to this incredible project, Jen Hale's baby project, to really help educate and empower young women. Speaking specifically about a set of data, I want to introduce a set of data to you, talk to you about some statistics. According to the Center for American Progress, women make up 44% of Standard & Poor's 500 labor force, but women hold only 20% of board seats and 6% of CEO titles. How do we help more women, especially women of color, Black women in particular, advance into leadership roles? I'd like to kick that question off and ask Dr. Barnes for her reflection.
Wow. Oh gosh, there's a ton of things we can do. One, hey, Saint.
Get that
Sorry,
smile.
guys. This is what happens when you're home. Say bye.
I love it. I think one of the things that's most important is we have to acknowledge the contributions of women, and Black women, wherever we are, when we're in organizations and we're doing the work, we have to be acknowledged. And people need to know that we're doing the work. You know, part of ascending and moving up normally is you've shown some level of success. But we also know that the relationships are also a part of that. And so, Swin, we were talking about this, you know, just a week or so ago, talking about the importance of relationships and having sponsors. I attended I forgot a convention, our Women Leaders in Sports convention. And Carla Harris, she's like a renowned speaker. She was on Wall Street. She's just done it all. But she talked about having people who are sponsors for you and who speak about you positively when you're not in the room. We have to have people actively sponsoring us, calling our names, and recommending us, so we'll get the opportunity. I mean, and literally, I think every job that I've had at this point was a phone call. Somebody said, oh, you need Kiki to do that. Oh, Kiki's good at that. Like, I didn't even know. And then I get this phone call saying, hey, I talked to such and such. Well, we have to figure out how to systematically do that better for one another. So definitely having people support, acknowledge the work, and be sponsors for us, I think is a step in the right direction.
Absolutely. Swin, how do you think we move Black women forward?
Yeah, I have this saying where for me, I don't just want to, be the first one through the door and the only one at the table. Like to me, when you go through a door, it should be a revolving door where there's other people that are constantly kind of coming behind you. And so what I totally agree with Kiki said, and one of the things that I personally have done, I think throughout my career, is making myself more aware of what women are doing. And so staying connected within kind of my own internal network so that whenever somebody's saying, oh, I need this person for this, or, this is a new job opportunity, that we are uplifting and pitching other people and other Black women that have had success, because there's usually not people in the room that are speaking our name, that even understand the work that we do, or know that we're qualified and capable of getting the job done. And so I think advocacy is a big thing. And I think the second thing is accountability. I've literally worked with Secret over the last couple of years. And one of the things that we worked on before I even came on board was talking about this issue just in general of what does equality look like? What does support look like? And so as we dived into a little bit more the campaigns and what they were going to look like, I was an advocate, even on set. I wanted to make sure I looked around and did this look like America? Did anybody else look like me? And a lot of times, especially whether you're in television, whether you're in Hollywood, you'll go to sets sometimes and they'll have somebody there that, got the job because they put they can do multiracial hair, but technically they can't, but they hire them because they're part of a system. And so, we have to get to that point where we start diving into these systems and holding people that are hiring accountable. And so when we ask people, what does your boards look like? Also, what does your C-suite look like? What does the advancement process within your company look like? How many people have been advanced? How many women of color have been advanced? Because sometimes, they like to just say, oh, minorities, we definitely have that covered. And you look and it'll just be, all white women. And you're just like, yes, you checked one box. But when I was growing up, my mom told me two things. And my grandma told me two things. She said, look, when people look at you, you already got 2 strikes against you. And I'm sitting there as like a 10-year-old and I'm like, wow, like 2 strikes against you. 1, you're a woman. 2, you're a Black woman. You never use it as an excuse. You're going to have to work hard and even sometimes harder, but understand how society's viewing you. And that's very tough to hear as a young child. And so it's always been in my mind. It's always been in my head. And as an adult, it started coming about and you're like, wow, not even as an adult. I would say even in college, you're like, yes, okay, I see what they're talking about. And I think that's where we have to be, the advocacy part, the accountability part, and also our peers. I talk to some of my white friends and colleagues and I say, look, here's the privilege that you have. Here's what people see when they see you. So even when you get into those spaces, I also need you to be an advocate. This is how you can be an ally. So I think we have to have those conversations with allies as well.
Mm-hmm. Lacy?
I think so. For me, it's a twofold thing. I do believe that the advocacy piece is huge. I personally believe, and it's funny, my husband and I had to talk about this recently, a lot of what stops that from happening and stops that equality from happening starts when people are very, very young. It starts in the home. It starts with the idea that there are certain things that women do and certain things that they don't. you add the Black piece onto it, and the fact that in some homes people are learning to look at you a certain way because you are Black, and you have the double whammy that keeps us from having a seat at the table. We have daughters who are really good at math. We push that. They're also really good at drawing. We push that too. A lot of people don't. I can remember when I was little and I told my mom, I'm going to be the president. My mom was like, cool, let's talk about how we get there. A lot of people don't have that. And I don't think it's only young women who are being told there are certain things that women do and certain things that they don't. It's young men who are being told it as well. So when they get into these spaces and they get into these moments where they can hire someone, if it's between me and the white male, there are mental biases that tell them to hire this other person. So we can't address our seat at the table until we address those biases that are being perpetuated through and through, generation after generation, that are keeping us where we are. So I think that that's like one place to start. Even when we talk about, you know, a lot of people don't start having diversity, inclusion, discussions, classes, everything like that until they get into the workforce. Why are we not doing this when people are children? When we're still able to shape their minds to think certain things. Instead of having you grow up until you are 23 years old and think that a Black woman can't do the job of a white male, why don't we stop that when you're 10? And I think that those are places where we can start to see more of that shift and change. It'll take time, like all things do, but if you change the root of the problem, it won't come back. And so I think that that's something to definitely look at.
Yeah. Emily?
I agree. I think for years, the position of diversity, inclusion has always been the go-to for a lot of these companies, as having a minority in that position or a minority woman. I think, and piggybacking on all of the ladies, what has to happen is these women need to be in positions where they're decision making. I know Dr. Kiki talked about earlier where this whole, the Black Lives Matter movement came across, and companies and businesses were being held accountable for their stance and looking to her for decision-making process. So why can't that be all around? We have perspectives that they may not have, and that will, at the end of the day, benefit their companies. And also when you think about, I know with us, companies want us to invest in their companies. Now, we need to hold them accountable. And like Swin said, who's on your board? What are your employees? What does that look like? And even with my own company, looking at things like that to move forward. So yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to add one more thing.
Sure, Swin, for sure. Absolutely.
All the people that are listening, please, because I've had this conversation with colleagues of mine. We are not saying, when you talk about diversity and inclusion, we are not saying that young white boys and white girls, that they no longer can have jobs or have these places. Like, please do not let that fear or that thing be in your head. That is not what diversifying and including people, equality, that does not mean that. That means that we are all equal and have opportunity. And so I sometimes worry that kind of thread and that feed is being fed out to our suburban women and different women that have young kids, and it is not the truth. And I want to stand here today and say, I would not say, you know, I want this for my son and not want the same thing for yours. I'm saying make it an even playing field. And that's what all women are saying. Give us an even playing field then let us compete to have these opportunities. And that's not happening. So we have to address it internally, if that makes sense. I just wanted to say that because so many people struggle with that. And I hate the fact that in politics and other places, they're using that against the idea of diversity and inclusion.
I'm sorry, that's so very true, because there's a lot of propaganda out there that is teaching people that, and it's ridiculous. We started doing a lot to give to the Black Lives Matter movement when everything not first started, we know it's been going on for centuries, but very recently we put some stuff in place. I was trolled on the internet so much that it was ridiculous. And it was all by people who said that BLM was a fascist organization, that didn't want to see other people succeed, or that
Oh,
we were the racists. And I'm sitting there like, excuse me, you've got to be kidding. But this is propaganda that's out there. And sadly, a lot of people believe it. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't want you to give me anything because I'm a Black woman if I'm unqualified. But I want to get it if I am. I don't want to not get it because I'm a Black woman. And that's what this is about. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you spoke about implicit bias, unconscious bias, Lacy, and also, you know, obviously what we're talking about is also structural racism. So I was really privileged to have a conversation with Nicole Hannah-Jones a couple of nights ago for an advocacy institute that the ACLU puts on for 2,000 high school students. So it was a virtual conference this year. And as you know, Nicole Hannah-Jones is an investigative journalist. She's a Pulitzer Prize winner for the 1619 Project, incredible Black woman. And she talks about educating our country about the role of Black people in perfecting the democracy of American democracy. So we traditionally think about American history as separate from Black history. And what she really does with the 1619 Project is say, yes, we traditionally celebrate our founding in 1776, but we should be looking at 1619. The date where 20 Africans were brought to the shores of Point Comfort, Virginia, and the role and contributions that Black people have played in terms of founding this country, building this country, and fighting for the rights that now seek to defend the rights of many others. So the civil rights movement not just cleared the way for Black folks to have the right to be free from slavery, to vote, and to be able to work and move in ways where they're not discriminated against, but it also paved the way for immigrant people to be in this country and to have the rights to live freely. It also paved the rights for LGBTQ people to have rights to equal liberty. And so in so many ways, this fight for liberation for Black people really has kind of empowered other groups to be able to experience the same kind of liberation, but it would not have happened but for the struggle of Black liberation. And so I think what we're really talking about is like trying to be recognized for the contributions that we've made in society, not to be given anything for free, but in many instances to be repaid for what was stolen.
Yeah.
To be repaid for what was stolen.
Reparation?
Yes, and so I think that has to come from a place of everyone educating themselves. We all need to understand, we need to get this history from 1619. We need to read about the contributions of Black people and the ways in which our wealth was stolen, ways in which land was stolen, ways in which our neighborhoods were redlined, ways in which our wealth was diminished, ways in which our schools were robbed, all of these things, because then when people understand what happened, then they can really start to understand why do we need to redress these issues. And so I just wanted to bring that up as well. This is a powerful conversation. I can't believe how fast the time is going. I want to get to just this crucial piece about mentorship. Swin brought it up, Emily brought it up, Dr.Kiki brought it up. What mentorship goals should our society aim for to help all of our young people have an equal chance to build happy, healthy, and successful lives? And how can we facilitate that? Obviously, organizations like Sideline Pass are doing that. Organizations like the ones that you each have founded and are working in can do that. But let's talk more about that critical mentorship sponsorship piece. Anyone can jump in here.
Yeah, I'll kick off that one. That's my lane right there. Mentorship, I think, is critical. So I founded So You Want a Career in Athletics. It's a program, as I mentioned, to help connect girls 13 to 18 to career opportunities in sport. And so one of the reasons I think that's really, really critical is we have to reach them earlier. So we were talking about how to help more women advance and get into the C-suite. So I could say that I am a beneficiary of some sponsors and some mentorship, okay? But the idea is that I was 12 years into my career before I got that mentorship. I went all the way through college. I stumbled upon my career. This wasn't intentional. You know, I graduated from college and was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. Coach offered me an opportunity to be a graduate assistant. And that happened. But it shouldn't be that way for those who are coming after us. So there's a lot of programs in terms of college athletics and women advancing. I'm a member of an organization called Women Leaders in College Sports. And there's a lot of programming and mentorship opportunities that happen for those of us who are in the business of college athletics. But where I see the gap in terms of what I do is those young ladies who are right now playing ball, who watch Swin, play professional basketball, y'all. We didn't have WNBA. Like, I came out in 97, the year the WNBA was beginning. Like, we didn't have women to look up to, but we have young ladies now who their entire life, they've seen women's professional basketball. But the question is, how do we connect those young ladies, 13 to 18 now, to us? Because where we usually see the problems is the disconnect. We don't connect the bridge between where we are now and where they are. And so that's where I see So You Want to Career in Athletics happening. What I hope to see, I did 7 webinars this summer over like 189 kids, 26 states, 50 something cities, I think, where I was able to reach girls, just webinars, and had some of my friends participate. Swin helped support one of our events before COVID. You know, we did a National Girl and Women in Sport Day. Thank you. It was great. But the idea now is, as soon as those kids graduate from high school, I'll be able to connect them with a woman from the inception of their career. As soon as they enter college, they will have a woman who can be there, who can connect them and start building their network a lot earlier. Again, we have the networks now, but we were in the business and we were trying to find one another. We didn't know where we were. We just stumbled upon each other. Oh, you're in athletics too? Oh, you're in athletics too? But that is what we have to do. We have to be the bridge, which is going to require us, one, to listen and not be so judgmental. Like, I can say from our generation, like, there was a lot of judgment. Like, if you're not a certain way, you know, you just kind of got whisked off to the side. Mm-hmm. But we have to listen and be willing to continue to adapt and grow with the younger generation so that we can pass the knowledge and they'll be willing to hear us. But this, you know, we're perfect. We have to be authentic in who we are. You know, they need to understand that. Like, we can't pretend like, well, I got this job because I'm perfect. That is crazy. There are young people who look up to us and they think we made no mistakes and we're so perfect and we're unattainable. And that is so far from the truth.
So
you know, I can get on my soapbox about where I feel like our generation fits in, you know. So I work with young people all the time, and I am very committed to being authentic and to giving them everything I have, just like I did as a player. Everything I got, they're going to get it. Everything I learned, they have to have it. No, I don't necessarily have all the answers. Let's partner. Let me learn from you. You learn from me. Mm-hmm. And I think if we can establish that with this generation, then we connect the bridge and they can come across.
Ooh. Yes. Swin, I know you may have to jump at 11, so I want to hear your words on this point on mentorship, sponsorship.
Yeah, no, it's okay, Alanah. I actually had them push my meeting. This conversation was going too good. I'm just like, I'll get back to them later.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that so much.
No problem. So my point on it is this. So I had, and thank God, great mentors growing up, because they didn't always tell me what I wanted to hear. I had men and I had women on the side of sports and on the side of business, different races, different backgrounds. My mom was big, and it's funny. My mom actually, she didn't get in trouble, but I'm gonna tell her. My mom used a different address for me to go to school that was in a predominantly white neighborhood in order to make sure that I had diversity in my education, which a lot of parents in our neighborhood did that, but it was for a reason. So I was able to kind of be around and different people, different kids, different activities. But when I got to the point of needing like mentors, one of my mentors, who's still my mentor today, let me know from the start. She said, look, I want to mentor you, but I'm also going to teach you how to be a mentee. And a lot of times we go in wanting to be a mentor, but we don't teach the mentees what's the responsibility or accountability on their end. Yes. And so I'm big from that standpoint. I get a lot of times people reach out, hey, I want to keep connected. I want to stay connected. but what does that connection look like? How do I help you? How do I support you? What do you need? And what questions should you be asking? And what is your responsibility on your end? Because I will follow up, and we're going to go down this road together, but I got to make sure that you're also being held accountable to a certain standard for yourself, not for me, because what I get out of this is the fact to give back. But I also want to help structure you so that once you're ready to get into that real world, that you have all the tools that you need. And so that's the area that I'm at, especially with my nonprofit, Cash for Kids, and the things that my husband and I do. And he mentors probably even more than I do. But it's really about that connection, that two-way street of helping the mentee understand what it is and how you're going to receive this information. And then on my end, as a mentor, how I'm able to bridge that gap, as Kiki said.
Yeah.
Lacy?
Sure. I, again, went to Ursuline. I'm on the alumni board now, and I'm really big into making sure that girls get creative mentors who want to go into creative fields. I'll say that growing up, I did, being at an all-girls school especially, I had a lot of mentors, but it wasn't until I got to NYU that I had mentors that had actually made something creative into a career. Instead, I grew up with people saying things like, oh, Lacy's, and when I say people, please know I don't mean my own family. They would tell people where they could put these opinions. But I had people saying things like, Lacy's so bright. I can't believe you're going to let her go to art school. Lacy should be a lawyer. Lacy should be a doctor. And my mom would say things like, Lacy should be whatever Lacy wants to be. Because one thing I know about my daughter is that whatever she wants to do, she will make it work and she will be more than fine. So I had support, but I think earlier on, if I had had someone to, like you said, start connecting me with other people in creative fields to know that that was possible. I knew I was creative. I knew I was really good at art. I knew that if someone asked me to do a project, I knew I could charge them for that and be paid for it. I didn't bridge the gap from making art into a career probably until towards the end of my career at NYU. And as far as entrepreneurship in my communities, that didn't exist. People taught you how to get a good job, how to work your way up the ladder. Well, that wasn't for me. A, it just never was. I have issues with authority. I always have. So it wasn't. But then B, I graduated in 2008. And I think all you ladies can remember what 2008 looked like economically. There were no jobs, not a single solitary one. So thankfully, I had family and I told them, I want to start a business. And they were like, all right, then I guess that's what we're doing. But I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have anyone to connect to. So my job, as far as I'm concerned, is making sure that there is mentorship in those spaces. At the academy now, they are actually teaching a class on entrepreneurship. I'm volunteering to help with that initiative because I failed, I spent a whole lot of money that if maybe I had had the right mentorship, I wouldn't have had to do all that. So I think that personally, it is my job to make sure that young women who want to take the path that I've taken understand that it is a path that is possible. You don't have to fall into a certain category to be successful. You can be successful at whatever you love. And also making sure that they understand that entrepreneurship is not for people up here somewhere. Entrepreneurship is for you and me, and it can be, and making sure that they understand that.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Entrepreneurship is for you and me. I'm going to give Emily the last word here on sponsorship and mentorship, and because we are running a little low on time. Emily.
All right. Well, I'm going to piggyback off of everyone because those are the exact points. I feel like even in schools, we're learned those hard skills, those book skills, but what about the soft skills? What about learning about financial literacy? For instance, my husband and I took it upon ourselves to teach our children about entrepreneurship. I got some Bath and Body Works sanitizers on sale, and I said, you're gonna set this table up right here, and you're gonna sell them for a profit. We're gonna find out how much it costs to ship, the total cost, and we're gonna do, so things like that. I remember even in school, I used to buy stuff from BJ's in bulk and sell them for $1. And the kind of like, we are entrepreneurs. We learn how to thrive. So teaching children that representation, of all facets of careers. There is just not one way. Like Lacy said, there's different skills that you can learn. And I think implementing that in mentorships with schools and following these kids through this journey and the connection. And we talk about the Fortune 500 companies. Why not encourage them to go inside some of these schools, and particularly in the inner cities who don't have access, and be with these children and teach these children about the corporate world or owning their own business or how they started up. So I think that's important as far as mentorship.
Yeah.
Wow, ladies, I just want to say to each and every one of you, I have been honored to hear your stories, to hear the words of wisdom. I hope y'all were writing, taking notes. These were nuggets that our folks were dropping on the phone today. This was incredible, an incredible conversation. I want to say that Sideline Pass has some incredible events coming up, very similar to this one. I don't know that they will be as dynamic and as amazing as all of the women on this call, but I can only imagine in their own right they will be lovely. Sideline Pass will host a discussion featuring young men from Son of a Saint, which is an incredible organization, wonderful mentoring organization. And there will also be featuring young women who have received Sideline Pass scholarships for discussion on racial justice from a student's point of view. So I want everyone to stay tuned for all of the incredible work of Sideline Pass. I want to say thank you to each and every one of our panelists. You are dynamic, you are beautiful, you are amazing. Thank you for allowing me to share the space with you. Thank you to Jen Hale and to Sideline Pass, and to all of our participants. Thank you for taking your time and investing in Sideline Pass today. You'll have a wonderful day. Take care and be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.